What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Vitamin Lead, your healthy dose of leadership, your healthy dose of leadership. Today, we are going to talk about leading yourself through the holidays. And I'm excited to have two special guests with us. My first guest is somebody that is brand new to Vitamin Lead. His name is Noah Kaye. You may have heard me talk about him. But Noah, he's a husband to Trisha, dad to Davis, Lily, and Grayson, and a family that loves people tons. He is an influencer, communicator. He was a pastor for a season, international leadership trainer for a season, leadership coach. And now Noah is leading the way at Integer Network, where he is equipping and coaching people and teams into authentic living and whole hearts. And even more than that, Noah's a great friend to Jess and I, and so grateful for his friendship. Noah, welcome to Vitamin Lead.
Thanks, TJ. So glad to be with you finally here on this podcast.
It's going to be awesome. And here to my left, probably your right, I want to introduce, she's no stranger to Vitamin Lead. She was on our 100th episode. Jess Reid is a weight loss coach, life coach, keto enthusiast, wife, and mother. She leads the Keto Fit weight loss coaching for women, where she empowers women through the confidence-building catalyst of weight loss to become the best versions of themselves, accomplish the dreams they have for their lives. Jess has over 12 years experience in education and counseling and coaching, and we are excited to have her here for Vitamin Lead. Jess, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back.
Okay, so today the topic we're talking about is leading yourself through the holidays. And so we are going to be talking about family, food, and finances as something that we are digging through here. And so the first question I just want to toss out to both of you is, what are some of your favorite memories of the holidays? Who wants to go first on that
one? I'll go. My favorite memory is a tradition that our family's had since I was a child, was that my grandfather would read the Christmas story, which would be the biblical account of the Christmas story of the birth of Jesus from Luke chapter 2. And he would read that since we were little kids, and we'd all sit around at his feet. And it was this moment that just marked that the holidays were on us, and that this was just something we always looked forward to. And then when he passed, we called him Pop. When Pop passed, my dad began to read it, and he read it for many years until he passed last year. And so that, when you ask this question, that is the first thing that comes to my mind, is how special it was for us all to gather around and hear the Christmas story read by the elder statesman of the family.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Jess, you want to share anything?
It's very patriarchal of you, Noah.
Yeah. No comments. We're going to pass it on to a woman soon.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah. I volunteer. So my favorite memory was probably the year that you and I lived in New York, and my dad came to visit for Christmas, and he took the train from Boston to Long Island, and we went and picked him up on Christmas morning, and we spent the day together just hanging out, and I made a nice big dinner just for these two guys, and it was just a really nice day.
That's awesome.
What about you?
So for me, the one that came to my mind was my dad managed apartments growing up in Cleveland, Ohio. And there was a Christmas Eve where the whole building had been cleaned out, and they had an indoor pool at this apartment building. And so we went swimming on Christmas Eve with my grandpa and my dad, and just had a blast. It was something that I'd never done before. And it's just one that sticks out as just a really fun memory being all together there. And so, yeah, that was a good one.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're a big Christmas guy, aren't you?
I'm a big Christmas guy, as you can tell behind me here.
Yeah. Love it. I love that about you.
Yeah.
Halloween night, kids are trick-or-treating out on my street, and I'm lugging the Christmas tree into the house to set up. So I'm quite obsessed with it. Okay, so let's dive into the family piece, because this is obviously something that when holidays are coming up, people are like, okay, how am I gonna work with, be in the same proximity as my family, depending on how they feel about it. But No, I want to toss this one out to you because you deal with helping people with like wholeness and authenticity. How can someone be authentic if they don't have a good relationship with their family, especially during the holidays?
That's a great question. I think it has a lot to do with how we show up in the event, in the space, at the party, at the meal. Um, I think authenticity is often defined in tons of different ways. I like to toggle between that word and the word genuine. It seems to also capture something of the spirit of it. And often we think authenticity means saying everything we think, revealing it all. And I'm not sure that's true. In fact, I'm sure it isn't true. And so I think that we can show up very genuinely in the holidays with our families, regardless of the depth of relationship we have with them. We can show up genuinely compassionate, genuinely caring. We can be genuinely interested in how they're doing. We can be genuinely excited about the experience we're going to have together, or the meal we're going to share, or the dish that I fixed, or whatever. Genuinely curious about what we're going to do together or how we can have a good time. There's a lot of ways to be authentic that don't include saying everything we're thinking and feeling. And so I wonder if we would invite ourselves to show up genuinely in a lot of different ways. So taking that word and adding it before a ton of different positive ways to show up with your family during the holidays. We're so limited in our thinking often. Authenticity just means we come in and talk about the elephant in the room. And that is not necessarily true or the most effective and wise way to engage with our families in the holidays. So how else can we genuinely show up? That would be a question that I would lay before us.
That's good.
Yeah, I like that. So you're saying that, like, a lot of times people think that authenticity means being kind of like gut-wrenchingly honest, but
Yep.
It's more like thinking of it in terms of showing up as the person who you really want to be.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And showing up, unplanned and without an agenda means I'm actually coming just to try to be present. It's not easy for us to be present, especially when there's underwater boogies and elephants running around the room. But I'm coming to just be present with you. Like I'm not coming with an agenda that I need to accomplish something or face a tough conversation or unearth a memory or fix something that needs to be resolved between us. Maybe coming without agenda and learning to be genuinely other things other than gut-wrenchingly honest is the road to getting where you want to get, because that's going to build trust. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
Do you think we try to be gut-wrenchingly honest because we kind of make ourselves the center of that instead of trying to make other people the center of it?
Well, we're definitely bringing our need, aren't we? We're bringing a need that we have that the other may not be able to meet or ready to face. And so I wonder what else we could do with our needs other than assume this limited option that the other has to fix it. Might there be ways that I can process this need, that I could share this need with someone else, that God could somehow work with me in this need? Because the truth of the matter is, in all of our families, there's relationships that it just ain't happening.
Right.
You're just not going to get what you want. And we've got to find another way to make this happen. Like there comes a place in many of our family relationships where we go, this is about what I'm going to get out of this. And learning to be grateful for that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I heard somebody say a few years back, they're like, you got to understand who the people in your life that like can dump buckets and those that are like thimbleful people and accept where they're at. And for some people, giving the thimbleful of encouragement or compliment or something like that, that's the best they can do. And so you've got to learn to appreciate when you get that from them instead of resenting them that they're not a bucket full type of person.
It's good.
Anything you'd add to that?
I recently have been doing some reading on acceptance and commitment therapy. It's called ACT. And I really enjoyed kind of the premise of it. I was introduced to it by someone. But kind of the premise is that you stop trying to change your thoughts and your feelings. I think that we do this a lot. We kind of reject it and we say, oh, that's a bad thought or that's a bad feeling. Let me try to replace it with a better one or whatever. So the premise of this is that you just stop fighting it, that you just kind of sit and be okay with the difficult thought or feeling that you're having. Like, oh, I wish that such and such family member would treat me differently, or I wish that I could be more understood or whatever. So you just kind of sit with it, accept it, let it go, and then commit towards your valued behavior. So regardless of this situation or this circumstance or being misunderstood by this person or wanting this to be different, what is my valued behavior and how am I in control to be able to move towards that?
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's so good. Okay, thank you guys for both for that. One of the words we often hear with holidays is the word obligation, as something in regards to family or friends. And so I don't necessarily know how to approach this question, but how do we unpack that word obligation? How do we set boundaries in this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You have thoughts?
Yeah, so I was thinking about the word obligation, and I think the truth of the matter is that obligation is something that we feel, but it's not actually real. The only obligations that we have are things that we've obligated ourselves to. Now, other people will always have an agenda for us, but we kind of talked about this the last time that I was on the show about not sitting in the driver's seat of your own life. You're sitting in the passenger seat of your own life and letting somebody else drive it. And I think at the holidays especially, we tend to get really stressed out and feel that more than ever. We feel other people's agendas more than ever. There's a bazillion invites. There's a bazillion opportunities for other people to have their feelings hurt if you don't show up to something, or if you don't offer to do what it is that you normally do every year, or just whatever. We feel that pressure more than ever that we're going to let people down. But thank God, we actually don't have any obligations. It's a matter of if we do have an obligation, we can get out of it. We just have to ask ourselves, what is it going to cost us to get out of it? So I was thinking about when you and I first moved down here, and we were living with my sister and her husband for about 9 months, and we were really itching to go find our own place to live. So we may not have been the best at researching and doing our due diligence. And we ended up renting an apartment in an area of town that we didn't know was it was not a great area of town. And we signed a 1-year lease, right?
Yeah.
And so about 3 months in, we knew that we needed to get out of this lease. We had an obligation, a very true obligation. We signed our name on the dotted line. I am obligated to pay rent to these people for an entire year. But here's the way to get out of it. You can break the lease and you can still pay all the money, but I don't have to live here anymore.
Yeah.
So you can get out of the obligation. So if you have an obligation to show up to your mother-in-law's house on Christmas Eve, you can get out of that. But what is the consequence of you getting out of that? And you just have to ask yourself, do I want to take the consequence of getting out of this, whatever it might be, or do I want to live with the consequence of me not wanting to do this and being bitter about it? You're the one that's in control, though. You always have a choice. And so that's a very freeing thing. And I think that we need to take the responsibility on ourselves and say, like, I'm not stuck. I am not in a position where I don't have choices. Now, I also don't think that we should just be a jerk and say, like, well, I'm not obligated to anybody. I'm not doing anything. It's all about me.
Right.
But I think it should be about, like what Noah was saying, like, who do you want to be this holiday season? Who do you want to show up for well? What does it look like to be a good son-in-law, to go over to your mother-in-law's house? Like, how does this line up with your valued behavior, and then operate in that way? And if there's so much dissonance that you can't, then maybe you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. That's so good, Jess. You took the words right out of my mouth. When I anticipated this question about boundaries, I thought to myself, my answer, TJ, is who says?
Mm-hmm.
And when we really sit with that question, I mean, what percentage of these obligations that we have are self-imposed? I mean, if we, I don't know, but I want to suggest that it's a pretty high level of them, and they're imagined, they're felt, and they may be felt for good reason. There may be evidence that says, when I in the past have not performed this act, I have felt this reaction, and I don't like that reaction. So I now feel I need to do this thing or be at that event. But they're very much felt, they're very much assumed, and they're not actual. You can't grab them. So they're really funny, these obligation guys. I say, who says? I mean, to a lot of these. So my thought about it, though, is that really at the core of it, so I'm a fan of like love. I think love's a really great thing. So another way of saying it is compassion. So I think there's two types of compassion that are fighting here: self-compassion and others' compassion. You really want people of love and compassion to our family, even when they're broken and messed up and have hurt our hearts. So that's the game we're playing around this obligation question, is who am I going to show compassion to? My tender heart, my need for boundaries. I'm not a huge fan of the word. I'm a big fan of the concept. I think the word immediately sends off sirens for people, boundaries. Oh, they're pushing me away. But I love the concept. So I like to think of it in terms of self-compassion. I need to love myself well, or I can't love you well. And so Jesus gets to this idea of love your neighbor as yourself. That's at the core of it all. So how in the world does this self-love thing work? What I know is I'm not good at it, and I've not done enough of it. And I need more language and more experience with figuring out how to love Noah. So I need to give Noah compassion to have his rest, to have his space. I need to give Noah the compassion he needs to show up healthy. So, but I have to toggle, because I really do want to love others well. I can't just camp in self-compassion. I got to then be compassionate to others. So it's a game around, who am I going to show compassion to in this moment? I'm feeling like I have to go to this event, but I need space. I don't think it'll be healthy for me. Sometimes I'm going to choose to have my compassion on myself and protect myself and not attend, but I need to then invite myself to be brave enough to put others first and be a little uncomfortable or not really do what I want. But you can't do all of either. It has to be back and forth, give and take, fill and give away. And I think that's how we have to ebb and flow with these whole holiday obligation stuff. But just some thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question come to my mind as you were talking, Noah. When you lived in international context, was it different there? Was there social obligation, cultural requirements maybe that obligated people, or is it the same way in some of those other countries that you've lived in and been a part of?
Yeah, I think it's everywhere. I mean, I think it's universal. I mean, in family systems, and I can remember having conversation with some of my African friends. For those listening, we lived in South Africa for 5 years and then in Tanzania for a few years, and traveled extensively around Africa. And just, yeah, you meet people from tons of different cultural backgrounds. And, it gets I'd say even more complex in some ways, because you have traditions that are very tribal and have carried on for a long time, but modern young African, or especially urban young Africans, they're like, oh my word, I don't want to do this stupid tradition. And but they're so gracious that they fight it even worse. I have to go back to the village and kill a goat and spread the blood on the blah, blah, blah. Like, they're like, I'm so over it. I want to get on Instagram. So you have this reality in Africa that's just stark when it comes to these obligations. And yeah, they do exist around holidays, but also around other, especially around births, weddings, and deaths. Those are huge. And so there's where it gets really funky, especially death, because of the value for ancestors and the dead. So yeah, it's there, and it's funny. I got stories, but we don't have time for them.
Yeah.
Did you want to say something else? I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. No, I think you've already talked to this, but kind of last question on this topic of family. I just wanted to ask, should we bring hard things out into the open with family, or should we mainly focus on dealing with our own emotions before we are with family?
I mean, my answer is simply, if there's a big, fat, green light, like, it's like a big old, clear, inarguable opportunity for a deep exchange and the table set relationally, and it's just this moment you never thought could happen. You walk into it joyfully and calmly and lean towards saying less. You can't get it back once it's said, but you go into it. Plan it and bring it up? Nope. I don't think so. I just don't think that's the space. That's just my personal take. You walk into the opportunity when it's there. I had one at Thanksgiving last year with family, my brother and his wife, and we just had an incredible open talk. And it was till 1 o'clock in the morning, standing in the kitchen. And I think the wine helped, but I think we just were able to have some really honest conversation, and I really appreciated that talk. And I look back with very positive memories about what we were able to accomplish in our relationship during that conversation. But it was clear we were supposed to have it. It was time, and it wasn't. If you feel anxious and you're like scared and you're just, don't do it. I mean, don't mark your holiday with a blow up. Mark it with love and grace and listening. And if they just need to do it and you don't feel safe, let them talk. But again, you got to feel that big time green light and walk into it like it's a construction zone that you can rebuild something. But otherwise, I'd say lean into other times and spaces, not holidays.
I like it.
But I wish you had a different opinion.
Well, I think that it might be a more difficult situation for people who have like a really strong honesty trait, because people who it's very important to them to honestly represent themselves with others, they might feel like they're being untrue to themselves and just trying to play nice and, you know, get through it. And to sit through something like that actually feels the opposite of enjoyable for people sometimes. And that itself can make you anxious. Like to not say something can make you feel anxious, to just sit there.
I relate to that.
So I think for me, I've always, I have a very strong honesty trait. So, oh, there we go. Now you know why I said that. So one thing that I have found helpful is to ask myself, like, what is the end result that I actually desire out of this? And what is it going to cost me to get to that result? And is the cost of it worth the trade-off? So if you actually desire, do you have a need that you just need to like say what you need to say to get it off your chest? Mm-hmm. Are you trying to reform the other person? Like, are you actually hoping that what it is that you're going to say is going to accomplish them changing their behavior? If that's what you're hoping for, then you probably shouldn't say it, like, because you can't change anybody else. But if for some reason you have such a strong need that you just need to say it, I would agree with Noah not to say it at the holidays. Like, don't say it over Thanksgiving dinner. But, you know, you might want to approach the conversation before entering into it, you know, maybe when your loved one calls you up or you got an RSVP or just whatever, and you know that you can't possibly, you know, sit through something like that, or it's just going to be hell on earth for you, ask to have a conversation beforehand or whatever. But yeah, if you know that, if you can try to think in terms of like, is this actually worth it to me to go ahead and say whatever it is that I feel like I need to say, then do it. But otherwise it might not be worth it, and only you know the answer to that. So.
Thanks for adding. I really value what you said. I have the same honesty trait, by the way. As I've studied, researched, and learned to practice authenticity more, I'm realizing a lot of times it's not the healthiest stuff I find when I look inside about why I need to say this thing. One of the biggest ones for me is being understood. Yeah. And I've had to work at, I always ask myself this question now. If I'm never understood, would that be okay? Could I still love them? You know, just giving up like eternally the need. Yeah. And it really touches my sense of insecurity is what I find, that they have to understand me. Why can't I go on without being understood, you know? But it's hard. It's not easy.
It's a hard thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel that need too, Noah. So I understand. I understand you.
Thank you for understanding me. I feel like I've been honest and you heard me. We get on all right at the holiday table. We could do it right there in front of the turkey, girlfriend.
That's right.
In case our Vitamin Lead listeners didn't realize, we had two coaches, certified coaches here that are a part of this conversation. So they're good at asking questions and listening well. So let's, so we talked family a little bit. Let's pivot to food. Food is something that takes a central place a lot of times during the holidays. What's your favorite Thanksgiving or Christmas food?
We have some dear friends that always join us for Thanksgiving every year, and they always make this it's a pumpkin spice whipped cream, and it's stabilized with gelatin, so it's like really just thick. I could eat it straight out of the bowl. And so they make it every year for me. It's so delicious. Yeah.
Sounds so good. My favorite thing is actually a snack food. My mom makes Chex Mix. And, it's like Chex Mix, Chex cereal and pretzels and peanuts, and I think that's it. And like sticks of butter and Worcestershire sauce and seasonings, and then bakes it in the oven until it's crispy. And I like the really dark ones that have extra Worcestershire sauce and they're extra cooked. So like brown and dark, I'm all over that. So that's my favorite snack, to eat Chex Mix during the holidays. I always look forward to about this time of the year. My mom will start making it and sneaking me bags of it or tins of it. So that's my favorite.
Oh, that's interesting. So it tastes savory, not sweet?
It tastes savory.
Interesting. I've had something similar, and in my family we called it puppy chow, but it was like baked in the oven but covered in white chocolate.
Yep, no, none sweet. It's salty and yummy, and oh my goodness, it's so good. Yep.
That's what about you?
I sound like Uncle Phil from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where I'm like, I like the turkey and the mashed potatoes and the gravy with the little onions in it. Because I don't like the little onions in it. But I'm a traditional turkey and mashed potatoes type of guy. That is absolutely my favorite thing. And so I love it. So the holidays bring the word obligation a lot of times again, kind of a social obligation of drinking, eating, or a lot of times stress, and we stress eat during the holidays. Jess, you lead the Keto Fit weight loss coaching, and so can you talk us through some goals that we can have for the holidays in regards to food?
Yeah. So I started keto on November 1st of 2013. And I thought, I'm just going to do this for a few weeks, drop some weight. But I ended up feeling so great that I knew that I was going to continue on with it. So lo and behold, here we are 4 weeks later for Thanksgiving. And at Thanksgiving, of course, everybody's making all these foods. And people will be sometimes offended if you don't eat what they made, or you don't want to eat what you've always in the past eaten. Traditions and stuff like that. So yeah, it can feel like an obligation. People will put food in front of your face and they'll say, here, I made this, try this, yada, yada. And you don't want to hurt their feelings or offend them or so on and so forth. So I'm not here to dictate to anybody what you should eat and what you should not eat. But I think you should know what you want to eat and what you don't want to eat before it happens.
The answer to that is everything for me.
And that's fine.
And so.
Yep, that's fine. If you go into the holiday and it's just like you want to enjoy the heck out of it and then eat everything under the sun, good for you. If you're the type of person that after every single holiday you are filled with regret instead of just food, and you want to be different this year, I would just encourage you to have a plan. Because even if you plan to treat yourself, then you do it and it was a planned behavior, you will feel good about it. If it was an unplanned behavior, you will feel awful about it. So I don't care what the plan is, but just have a plan going into it. If your plan is you're going to eat absolutely everything and you're going to feel amazing, then you, at the end of the day, will have accomplished your plan. It's a psychological trick, right? But we always feel better when we are living in congruence with what we have said we value and what we want to do. So if we say, I feel awful when I eat carbs, I'm going to do my best not to eat them this year. And then you come down to it, and because either you want to change your mind or because somebody else is putting pressure on you and you coalesce to that, you're going to feel awful either way. It's just about keeping a promise to yourself. So if you promise yourself that you're going to eat everything and then you keep that promise, you will feel great. If I promise myself that I'm not going to, coalesce to other people's agendas for what I should eat that day, and I keep that promise to myself, I will feel awesome.
That's so good. That's so true. I love it. For those that are listening that don't have video, I'm chubby. I've been chubby my whole life. And so I'm a big guy, been overweight my whole life. Food's been a central part of my family system and a central part of my own personal system. And I am wanting to tell you this, TJ and Jess. I haven't told you this, I don't think, and I'll tell the world. Tomorrow is 2 months since I changed my life regarding my relationship with food. So I'm 25 pounds down and feeling great. And I'm more excited about the mind changes happening for me than the weight. The weight will come, I'm convinced, if I keep my mind healthy about my relationship with food. So yeah, I'm working on changing that relationship. That's where I comfort my broken heart. That's where I medicate my pain and hurt, my low days, everything. I turn to food. So I'm working on that because I want to be whole and healthy. But I was just thinking about the holidays, and Jess, you've helped me a lot here just to make sure I have a really intentional plan that I can win. Mm-hmm. So anything I'm angry that I can't eat, I'm going to enjoy 2 bites. That's what it's the only decision I have made. Like if I'm really upset I can't eat that, I'm not going to say I can't eat that. I'm going to eat 2 bites.
Right.
Yeah.
I do really good in other ways. Yeah.
One of the things Jess really helped me about with when she started keto was she said there's moderators and abstainers. Mm-hmm. Like people that can abstain, they'll just abstain and be totally cool with that. Mm-hmm. Moderators, they need to moderate and take a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I find myself in the moderator category because I feel like I am pissed if I don't get to eat that. Like, and it's not just being true to myself. I'm just angry that I don't get to do that. And so I've learned myself there, and then trying to control myself a little bit more with the moderation of stuff. Do you want to expand on some of that? Or?
Yeah, for a lot of people, maybe if you feel confused by it, one of these 2 categories is hell on earth for you. Hell on earth for you is either having something that's completely off limits that you will never be able to enjoy again. If that's hell on earth to you, you're probably a moderator. If it's hell on earth to you to try to control or moderate the amount of something that is allowed into your life rather than just cut it out entirely, then you're probably an abstainer. So for me, I'm an abstainer. I lack self-control. It sounds crazy to say because I'm probably one of the most disciplined people that you will ever meet. Self-regulation is extremely important to me because I feel like I lack self-control. So for me, it's easier to just cut something completely out of my life and have zero decision fatigue about it. It's not a decision. It's just not, I just don't do that. But TJ is a moderator where if he needs to have a quote unquote cheat day or treat day, however so often, and that keeps him going. Yeah. Great. I would follow the rails. Yeah. But Noah, I just wanted to, kind of circle back to one thing that you said, how you said if you feel angry that you can't have something, that you're going to let yourself have 2 bites of it. I think that our language is just so important that we should never say, I can't have something. We just say, I choose not to. Right. Because I feel better when I eat this way and I'm worth it. So really it's a loving behavior to choose not to eat something.
That's so good.
Yeah, it's not harming
yourself. The kids will say, when we're doing dinner and I'll make something, they'll be like, Daddy, are you allowed to have that? Or Mom, or something, you can't have that, can you? And I'm like, oh, I swear if they say I can't have it again, I'll eat whatever I want to eat, type of thing. And so I find myself reacting. And then, no, I'm choosing not to have that. It's the better language. So that's really helpful to me, actually.
I've had to say that so many times because people are very well-meaning and they'll say, can you eat, blah, blah, blah. And I always try to just say, I say it mainly for myself, but also to set an example for other people that it's not a lifestyle of restriction. It's a lifestyle of loving yourself and treating yourself the way that you deserve to be treated, what makes you
And
feel
freedom. And freedom and choice. Like, I have freedom to make choices that are going to sustain my life in ways that, what a powerful thing. I have freedom to choose not to do that. So
yeah.
I just love that. Language does matter so much.
It is. It's important. And I say, I just say it over and over. I can eat whatever I want. I just don't want to eat that.
You're in the driver's
Simple
seat.
as that. Yeah.
Well, from food to finances, our last topic for leading yourself through the holidays.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so this is a tough one, right? This is something I think I was reading this week. There's like one of the highest grossing, like billions and billions of dollars. There's like a 4-hour period on Cyber Monday that like the most money is spent in the whole year in this 4-hour block. And it's just incredible, like how it captures us and how we kind of become part of that culture. And so I just want to throw it out to you guys. Neither of you claim to be financial experts, but just what are some thoughts? And we need to get our friend Wilson on this at some point to share some of this. But
Yes,
why does Black Friday, Cyber Monday, anything like that capture so much of our attention and our money?
Dopamine.
Well, I have, this is the thought I have. I think it's deeply, deeply, deeply connected to our culture. I have found, after living overseas, that Americans seemingly, it seems to me, in my experience, don't think their culture is a culture. Other cultures have culture. We don't have culture. We're American.
Right.
Maybe that's true for every culture, that they think everyone else is weird and they're normal, if I can say it that way. But I sat at Halloween here in front of my house the other night, and I was, every time since living overseas, Halloween just is the most stark of awe when it comes to culture. I mean, are you serious? I'm sitting outside of my front door with candy, giving free candy out that I bought to children dressed in wild outfits while their parents stroll them through the neighborhood from door to door, expectant to receive this free gift of candy during a 1-hour block of time on the last day of October. Like, it's just so specific and weird. And anyway, and it's just culture. And I think in many ways, the entire vibe of Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Giving Tuesday now has been added to that. The entire vibe is this preparation, getting ready for the time of year where our culture says we buy gifts and gives gifts because that's somehow what Christmas is all about. So it's all interconnected, but I think it's weaved through. Cultural rope is holding all that together in many ways. And then I think we mustn't shy away from all of our desire for a good deal. In a very materialistic culture where money makes the world go round, we don't have, unlimited access to capital. And most of us are like, I want nice things, I want to buy gifts, but I can't afford to do what I want. So there's this mind trick that goes, but I can if I get in at the right moment, at the right time, at the right store and pay the right price. I can do it. I can make this happen. I can be like the rest of them. I can buy whatever old crap I want. And so it's all there. So I don't know. I kind of think it's not all bad. It mustn't all be rejected, but we should play the game thoughtfully and joyfully, participate in it, understanding that it's very driven by culture, materialism, greed, and there's a whole bunch of unhealthy stuff, but I think you can swim in it in a healthy way and not throw the baby out with bathwater. So those are some initial thoughts about the whole vibe around those things. And then I have a story I gotta tell you, but I'll wait a minute, and I want to hear what your response are to that about Trish and I and our lesson around money and holidays.
Well, I remembered as we were getting ready to prepare for this, I remembered a time when we were was a school teacher and a pastor in Detroit, and had very little money. And there's funny stories around that of how people saw us with very little money. But one of the things one Christmas is I just said, my family grew up going to SeaWorld of Ohio. And so one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go well, I don't know. I'm guessing this is legal because it's home videos, but I just went and downloaded videos from YouTube of the different SeaWorld shows from SeaWorld of Ohio that people had uploaded, and then put them together in a little DVD and shared some of my memories, added a little note to my whole family there. And so, and that was one of the things that even recently, like they had in their cabinets, even though most of us don't have DVD players anymore, that was something that they had in their cabinets that I so appreciated because it wasn't something that I bought, but it was something that came from memory and came from just a genuine care and love for them and all of that. So what's your thoughts?
I don't really have much to add that Noah hasn't already said so well. So the sale, I think that we get very caught up in the limited time offer propaganda, and really it's cultural. It's also neurobiological. Like, it's a dopamine hit every time we, hit the button online, like buy now, and it's going to be at our door in 2 days, or even right now. But it can be a thrill. And it can be a replacement for what it is that we are really seeking at that time of year. And the holidays can be particularly a time when people tend to rely on their crutches or their numbing coping mechanisms because, the holidays can be stressful. It brings up a lot of grief for a lot of people, I think. So it's just, I think it's something to be aware of about yourself going into it, and just kind of be mentally prepared. And again, it's kind of the whole have a plan, have a budget, stick to the budget. And if you are able to stick to the budget by going out at 2 a.m. the day after Thanksgiving, and that's fun for you, awesome. But it's all about sticking. It's about knowing what your values are and what your plans are, and not caving into someone else's agenda, whether that's a family member or just target marketing.
Yeah.
So.
That's good. All right, now we want to hear the Trisha and you story.
Well, it's so I didn't over anticipate it, I hope, but yeah, we just we realized we were really all pretty bad with our finances through our 20s, and we've been pretty good through our 30s, and we're now at a place where I'm really proud of us. And I would definitely not call myself a financial expert, but my financial coach would tell you that I'm up there in the high level of percentage, if he's listening, of people that understand finances. And I really do enjoy it. So I've grown a lot in it. It's been one of the areas of development in my own life and in Trish and I's life together as a couple and a family. But we realized a number of years ago, when we started to try to we were doing better with our finances, Christmas was pretty awful. Like October, November, we fought all the time about money. Because very simple. I mean, where do you think this money's coming from for all these gifts you want to buy? Just falling from the sky? I mean, this is a lot of money. So what we did for a decade or more is just put it on a credit card and worry about it later. Awful way to live. So that's no longer okay with me at this point in our story. So we're we would fight and carry on. Finally, about, I don't know how many Christmases ago, 4 or 5 Christmases ago, I'm like, look, we're fixing this problem for next year right now. I want you to go make a budget, because this is Trisha's thing. She loves to buy gifts. If it weren't for her, our kids would be naked and afraid. And so she is the brainchild behind everything like this. So make a list of everyone you want to buy for and what you want to spend on them, and add it up and give me a total number. Go for it. Go for the gold, whatever you want, just don't forget anybody. So she did, and she comes up with this number. And for everyone, it's different. Some people don't value gift giving, and they can pull it off for $300. Not my wife. So with 3 kids and a big family and a desire to give gifts, we're talking $1,800, folks. We're talking $150 a month savings. So I got the magic number. The magic number was $1,800. And I'm like, oh my God, we're going to throw away $1,800 on gifts. So anyway, I got past that. I didn't fight, because I'd said, just give me the number. And I love to manage our finances and lead us in that way. So I said, great. I did the math, divided 1,800 by 12, come up with $150 a month, and began to save $150 a month for that year. And we've done it every year since. And so our account that says Christmas, that's, you know, in our bank, that's labeled Christmas as a savings account. I put $150 every month of 2019. And now she has this bank account that has $1,600 something dollars in it. And I'll put the money in again in a few days and we'll be up to 1,800 and she can just go have a blast and steward this. And so we no longer fight at Christmas. So it just changed our lives. And I just wanted to say, I mean, I think people just need to make a plan and then work their plan, because I don't know about you guys, but $1,500 or whatever is not just falling out of the sky mid-November.
Right.
So we need to plan for that kind of thing. We live on a budget. We don't have extra money to just go out and spend that kind of money. So that helped us. That saved our lives in some ways at this time of the year.
So if you set like your own, this kind of transitions to another question I have. If you set kind of your own expectations, then let's say you have family members that the expectation is giving or gifts and stuff like that. If you're not in a position to do that, or you haven't been saving and stuff like that, how can you walk me through like what a conversation would look like with those folks that kind of expect that every year? How will you be different with them? If you just need to set some new expectations for gift giving and stuff like that.
I'll let you go for this one, Noah.
Well, I you know, what came to my mind, TJ, was to maybe skip the conversation and try to just do something creative, but super meaningful. So sometimes the most special things are things that took thought and time, but not money. And so it could be, you know, a handwritten poem printed on nice paper and framed that makes your Auntie Jane cry her eyes out, and it's the most special gift she got the whole holidays, and it cost you $3. I think there's way more creativity to employ around the holidays that just aren't not totally focused on money. So I wonder if there could be ways to avoid conversations that are awkward and just act in creative and significantly special ways to rethink what gift giving looks like. So that's been successful for me in times where we didn't have a lot, and Valentine's Day comes around and I feel like I want to get Trish a dozen roses and a diamond ring, but I can't. And so she's got a Valentine poem I wrote her years ago that's hanging in our bedroom, and I walk by it and think, man, that was good. Actual hours to write that poem, which for me was a lot of time investment. And so, you know, whatever, those types of creative things seem like a good idea. I think in larger family systems where there's like traditional routines, I think we need to revisit them. So like we do like a cousin's gift exchange, and, you know, with a $35 limit or something, we'll ask ourselves each year, should we keep doing this cousin's gift exchange, or are they too old now? Oh, let's do it one more year. Okay. But then we'll ask ourselves again next year. Sound good? Yeah, sounds good. So keep revisiting. Does this, because sometimes you don't like it, they don't like it, and y'all just aren't talking about it. So I would say revisit, ask the question again each year whether it's time for change.
The cousins are 23, but we're going to keep giving gifts to one another.
Nice. Remote controls.
Yeah, that's great advice, Noah. I like your thought on doing like a meaningful gift, and you mentioned the SeaWorld videos that you had done for your family and how that was like, so that's something that they still talk about. So I think that in some families, though, that creating a meaningful gift is not something that is really appreciated. And so if that's your family, I would say don't be dumb and waste all your time creating something beautiful and sentimental and meaningful that you know is going to get poo-pooed on, and you're just going to get hurt way worse. That might sound really negative, but you can do that. You know, you can talk yourself up and just think like, well, I can't afford this, so, and if they don't like it, then they're just an awful human being. But you already know that they're not going to like it, and you're just setting yourself up to have that experience of rethinking that they're an awful human being for not liking your handmade thing. And so that's why I say, just, you know, if that's your situation and you know that that's what the situation is, then just don't put yourself through the pain. It's probably less painful for you to go have the awkward conversation and say like, hey, just wanted you to know, like, and have it early, like in September. Like, can we talk about the holidays? Just wanted you to know our budget, our financial situation is different than it has been in past years, or we have this financial goal that is more important to us this year than whatever it might be. We're having a baby, we're trying to save for a house, or just whatever. So just wanted you to have a heads up that we're not going to be able to, operate at the same level financial wise with gifts as we have in the past. Still plan on giving you a gift, but just wanted to give you a heads up, and I think that can probably mitigate it better than the heartfelt gift for someone that is not bent that way. Yeah.
That's so sensitive and so wise. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many family systems they're just so diverse. And so I think with the listeners, those that are listening into this, it's like you find yourself where you fit, but the family systems are as unique as our DNA. So it's like, that ain't gonna work on my family. So
yeah.
Really good, Jess.
Well, this has been good. We've tackled 3 really big holiday topics of family, food, and finances. If you both could leave the listeners with just kind of one thought this holiday season, what would you share to the listeners about leading yourself through the holidays?
Ooh, a fun coaching exercise that I like to offer to people is just to start with a completely blank slate. Whatever it is that you think you have to do right now, just take it completely off the table. And if you could design your ideal holiday season, what would you want it to look like? And even if you can't make it look exactly like that, at least you will have gotten further of creating something intentional that you really want, a memory that you want to create, a connection with a loved one that you want to solidify, an experience as a family, whatever it might be. But that will get you so much further, to just start with a blank slate and imagine and dream a little bit. What is your ideal future version of you at the holidays? Like, what is your ideal Christmas day look like? Whatever it might be. And then you might have all of those feelings inside of you, like, what's the point of this? It's never going to be able to be like this. Like, just push that to the side. Just give yourself the opportunity. And like I said, even if you don't end up with the ideal that you wrote down, you will get further than where you are right now.
That's good. Mm-hmm. Noah?
I love that. I have a weird one. So here it is. It's a challenge during the holiday season for all of us to consider, and that is double your eye contact. Think in terms of how much eye contact you typically make with your friends and family during a holiday season, and try to have an inner goal to double it. I think you would be just shocked, all of us, if we watch the video of how we enter into family meals, family gatherings, parties, Christmas parties, and on it goes. Hurried, busy, focused on our casserole dish and the foil coming off at the side, and where to put our jacket and where to put our purse and what we're going to do next and who's there and who isn't there, that we do a lot less eye contact and looking into each other than we can ever imagine. And it's weird and can feel threatening and scary, I'm sure. But I don't know, somehow it feels like it deepens something, makes me more present, makes me more aware. Like, the greatest thing to look at is into the eyes of another person with compassion, to feel and hear. And so it's like all these gifts around us of people that apparently mean something to us. And so I don't know, weird as it might be, try it as an experiment. Why don't you? Double your eye contact with your friends and family during this holiday season. See what happens. They might be like, why are you staring at me like that? I don't know, make up some reason, but I just feel like it can establish deeper connection, and then also center us a bit on what it's really all about, which is love, loving others, loving people. That's what it's about. Our hearts are going to be full when we lay our head down at night during the holidays if we've loved well that day, not if we've been busy enough or our food tasted great or whatever. So there it is. Weird as it is.
That's so good. Thank you both.
Mhm.
Thank you both for the wisdom. This is good. You know, we're filming this in early November, and it'll be going live next week. And so I really hope that we can all take to heart the words that we've talked about and what will inevitably happen in other people's hearts and minds as they think through this stuff. And so I'm believing for a great holiday season. Whatever you celebrate, a great holiday season in these coming months. And thank you, Jess, and thank you, Noah, for sharing your hearts, your lives, and your wisdom with us today.
Thank you, TJ and Jess. It's a real honor to be with you. I love you guys a lot. You know that.
We love you too.
We love you too. Now, I always forget this part, so before we wrap up here, just remember to check out Noah and the Integer Network at integernetwork.com. And you can see more about the work that they're doing in wholeness and authenticity and coaching there. And then also the ketofit.com, where you can connect with Jess. We'll put both links in our show notes. But thank you, Vitamin Lead community out there, for watching today and being with us. We look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great holiday season. Bye-bye.